My name is Jennifer Aniston, 42 years old, standing in the marble foyer of our Bel Air home, while the man I'd shared my life with for 10 years dismantled it in under 10 minutes. It's over, Jen, Brad said, his voice devoid of the warmth I once cherished. He gestured around at the life I had built, the life I had paid for. I don't need this anymore. I don't need you. My phone buzzed on the entryway table. A text from my business manager. Blackwood Productions deal closed. All assets now under the JHO company. You are officially independent. I looked up from the screen, a slow smile touching my lips as Brad continued his monologue, completely oblivious. He thought he was leaving me with nothing. He had no idea he was setting me free. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments below where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to find your own strength when the world tried to take it from you. Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of hidden power and ultimate justice. Living in the spotlight with Brad Pitt was like being the groundskeeper for a beautiful public monument that was secretly crumbling from the inside. To the world, we were Hollywood's golden couple. Our life was a curated series of red carpets, magazine covers, and whispered admiration, but behind the closed gates of our estate, I was the sole architect, financier, and janitor of the Brad Pitt image. Our marriage began with promise, but his ambition was a fire that consumed everything without ever producing any heat. His passion projects, an ill-fated venture into avant-garde furniture design, a vineyard that produced more debt than wine, a production company that optioned esoteric scripts no studio would touch were all funded by my earnings. The long hours I spent on set, the endorsements I signed, the careful investments I made with my advisors, all went into a joint account that Brad treated like a bottomless ATM for his whims. It takes money to make money, Jen, he'd say, waving off my concerns with the casual arrogance of a man who had never had to truly earn a dollar himself. You have to build a legacy. But his legacy was a trail of invoices and failed enterprises, while my legacy was the steady, reliable career that kept our gilded cage from collapsing. The only person who seemed to see through the facade was his father, the legendary actor Robert De Niro. Robert was old school, a man carved from granite and integrity. In the rare moments we had alone, at family gatherings, he would look at me with a knowing sadness in his eyes. He saw the fatigue behind my smile, the strength holding my posture erect. He was always like this, Robert told me once, swirling the ice in his whiskey as we sat on the patio of his Napa estate. A dreamer, but a dream without a foundation is just a ghost. Jennifer, you're his foundation. He put a hand on my arm, his grip surprisingly firm. Just make sure you don't let him pull you down into the soil with him. Build part of the house just for yourself, on higher ground. I took his advice to heart. 6 years ago, after Brad sank nearly $2 million of my friend's residuals into a collection of vintage motorcycles that turned out to be rust buckets, I made a decision. I secretly formed JA Holdings, a parent company for my own ventures. I opened separate accounts. With the guidance of a shrewd business manager, I began quietly funneling a portion of my income into my own projects. I started a production company, Blackwood Productions, under an anonymous LLC. I invested in commercial real estate. I built my own foundation, brick by silent brick. On the high ground Robert had told me about, to Brad and the world, I was just Jennifer Aniston, the successful actress. He never noticed the late-night calls, the business plans hidden on my laptop, or the way my portfolio was quietly eclipsing his imagined empire. He was too busy being Brad Pitt, a role he played with more dedication than any part he'd ever been cast in. I let him believe I was just trudging along, a willing partner in our shared success. It was the perfect cover for what I was really building. My escape route, the day everything changed, started like any other. I was reviewing a script for a new limited series Blackwood was producing. And Brad walked in, dressed in a new designer suit I knew I'd be paying for. He was holding a glass of champagne. To new beginnings, he said, his smile sharp and unfamiliar. It's 10 in the morning. Brad, what are we celebrating? My father passed away last night, he said, without a hint of grief. My heart sank. Robert was gone. He had been the one anchor of sanity in Brad's chaotic world. Before I could offer my condolences, Brad continued. The lawyers called. The estate is worth $500 million. It's all mine, Jen. I'm finally free. That's when he delivered his speech in the foyer. He told me he was tired of living off my dwindling celebrity. He said he needed a partner who understood true ambition, not someone content with being America's sweetheart. The cruelty was breathtaking. He was casting me aside with what he thought was my own money, all while celebrating the death of his father. He packed a single suitcase filled with clothes I'd bought him and walked out the door, leaving me in the echoing silence of our empty home. Within hours, the tabloids exploded. Brad was photographed boarding a private jet to Monaco with a 22-year-old model. The narrative was set: Brad Pitt, free from his tired marriage, finally stepping into his own legacy. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I called my lawyer. "It's time," I said. "Start the paperwork." Then I called my business manager. "Execute the final transfer and liquidate the joint accounts. Take every penny that's legally mine." For the next 2 weeks, I let the world think I was hiding, broken-hearted. Stephanie, my publicist, fielded calls from concerned friends while I worked. From the quiet of my home office, I finalized the slate for my production company. I approved the acquisition of a new commercial property in downtown LA. I watched my personal net worth, the one Brad knew nothing about, climb steadily. I was not a victim. I was a CEO in waiting. Then came the call from Robert's lawyer, a man named Arthur Vance. He formally requested my presence for the reading of the will. I don't think that's necessary. I told him, "Brad and I are separating." Mr. De Niro was very specific. "Ms. Aniston," Arthur said, his tone firm. "He insisted you be present. I believe it would be in your best interest." I arrived at the downtown law office of Vance, Covington & Crowe, dressed in a simple, elegant black dress. I felt a sense of calm I hadn't known in years. I was there to honor Robert, the one man who had seen my true worth. Brad was already there, lounging in a leather chair, his arm draped around the model from the tabloids. He looked at me with a mixture of pity and triumph. "Jen, glad you could make it," he said, as if we were at a cocktail party. "Arthur, can we speed this up? I have a reservation at Nobu." I ignored him and gave Arthur a small, respectful nod. He began to read. The will started with small bequests, donations to his favorite charities, gifts to old friends, a vintage watch for his nephew. Brad tapped his foot impatiently. Finally, Arthur cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. He looked directly at Brad. "And now, for the primary inheritance. To my son, Bradley Pitt, I leave my entire fortune, valued at approximately $500 million. Brad's face split into a grin. He winked at his girlfriend. "On one non-negotiable condition," Arthur continued, his voice steady. "He must remain legally and happily married to his current wife, Jennifer Aniston, for a period of no less than 1 calendar year, following the date of my death." The silence in the room was absolute. Brad's smile froze, then collapsed. "What?" he stammered. That's a joke, right?" Arthur continued reading, his voice unwavering. "Should my son initiate divorce proceedings, or should his wife, Jennifer Aniston, file for divorce from him for any reason whatsoever within that 1-year period, the entirety of the $500 million inheritance shall be forfeited. The full sum will then be transferred immediately and irrevocably to the De Niro Foundation for the Arts, to fund scholarships for underprivileged artists." Brad shot to his feet, his face a mask of furious disbelief. "This is insane. She manipulated him. He was old. He wasn't thinking clearly." "On the contrary," Arthur said, picking up a second piece of paper. "Your father attached a personal letter." He began to read Robert's final words. "My son, I have spent your entire life watching you chase ghosts, fame, fortune, the next shiny thing, while ignoring the treasures right in front of you. True wealth isn't an inheritance. It is character, loyalty, and a partner who stands by you. Jennifer has been more of a child to me in her strength and integrity than you have ever been in your blood. This is not a punishment, Bradley. It is your final lesson. I have given you a year to prove you can recognize the value of the best thing that ever happened to you. Don't squander this, as you have squandered everything else." Arthur then turned to me and to Jennifer. Thank you for your kindness, your patience, and your fortitude. I know you have built your own foundation on high ground. You never needed my money, only my respect, which you have always had. This was the only way I knew to give you back your freedom. Use it well. With love, Robert." Tears welled in my eyes. He knew, all this time. He knew. It wasn't a chain to bind me to
Brad's
Brad.
face was
It was a
pale.
key.
The
The
model
model
beside
beside him
him
was already inching her chair away. He turned to me, his eyes wide with a desperate, pathetic plea. Jen, he whispered. Baby, we can fix this. It was a mistake. I was stressed, grieving. I stood up, my composure absolute. I looked at the man who had dismissed me, belittled me, and tried to leave me with nothing. I saw him for what he was, a hollow man, a ghost, dreaming of being a king. There's nothing to fix. Brad, I said, my voice clear and strong. My lawyer will be in touch. I turned to Arthur. Thank you for everything. As I walked out, I could hear Brad's frantic voice behind me. Jen, wait. $500 million. We can have everything. I paused at the door and looked back at him one last time. I already have everything I need, I said, and for the first time, I knew it was true. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. When the terms of the will became public, Brad became a Hollywood laugh. His model girlfriend disappeared, and the friends who had flocked to his side vanished just as quickly. He tried everything. He sent flowers, wrote desperate letters, showed up at my gate begging for a second chance. He promised to change, to go to therapy, to be the man I deserved. But the man I deserved wouldn't have needed a $500 million incentive. I filed for divorce the next day. The De Niro Foundation for the Arts received its endowment, and the headlines celebrated the posthumous wisdom of a film legend. 6 months later, Blackwood Productions released its first feature film. It was a small, independent drama that I had poured my heart into. It won 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. As I stood on that stage, holding the golden statue, I didn't think of Brad, I thought of Robert. And the quiet encouragement he had given me. My success was no longer a secret, it was a headline. A testament to what a woman could build when she decided to stop being someone's foundation and become her own architect. Brad was eventually granted a small, conditional stipend from a separate family trust, managed by Arthur Vance. The conditions were strict. He had to maintain a steady job, attend financial counseling, and stay out of debt. The last I heard, he was leading acting workshops in a small studio in the valley. I had found my victory not in revenge, but in revelation. The world finally saw me not as a jilted wife, but as the force I had been, all along. The greatest triumph wasn't watching Brad fall. It was the quiet, profound peace of my own ascent. The mansion that had once been my gilded cage was now just a house, and I was free. I had built my empire in silence, and now, its success was making all the noise I would ever need. Have you ever had to become your own hero when no one else would? Share your story of resilience in the comments below. And if this story reminded you of your own inner strength, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with anyone who needs to remember that the most valuable empire is the one you build for yourself. Thank you for listening. Your path is your own, so make sure you're the one who owns it.